All right, so we are now recording. I don't have my webcam on because I am lazy, but it's also not about me. So I'm Jay Miller. This is setting up your Twitch stream for 2018. And this is brought to you by Productivity in Tech, which is the podcast and online community that I run, which helps people in the tech space get more productive by working together and through the magical powers of community. We have a guest with us today. It's Anurag, right?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, right the first time. I love it. And Anurag joining us from Cleveland. And we wanted to do this because there were a couple of people that had asked about, what does it take to get a stream set up? So real quick, we're going to run through some of the basic things that you're going to need. And please remind me if I forget anything, Anurag. So I'm going to share my screen, but we're only going to share a couple of things because my desktop's a mess. So I don't want to burden everybody with that. All right, so let's see. Which one are we sharing?
I'm good at frames.
All right, so you should see a Twitch window.
Yeah.
All right, so this window, I gotta make sure I'm getting it for the recording. Looks good. All right, so this is just your basic Twitch page. I follow a few things, Dungeons and Dragons, Guilty Gear, and then mostly developers. So for me, setting up your Twitch account, you can do it a few ways. I'm not going to go over the basics of how to set up a Twitch account because they really do a good job with that. If you don't have a Twitch account, then the first step is definitely going to be, let me actually start talking into the mic. The first step is going to be getting your Twitch account set up. Hold on 1 second. Okay, that's going to be loud. Fix that. There we go. All right. Now, once you have your Twitch account set up, you're going to want to find your Twitch stream key. And this is probably the most important thing that you will need for streaming. And you can do that really easily if you just go to your dashboard here. So click on dashboard. And once the page loads, I could probably close some of these other tabs to speed this up a bit, but let's see. All right, so this would be your dashboard. If you're streaming and you want to check your stream health and some other things, you want to change the title of your stream and just add a description. You can send out a quick notification to people. There's a few things you can do here, but what we're looking for is the settings tab way over here on the left. And then you'll see a stream key button that you can press. It's not going to show the key. I'm not going to show you the key, but if you click on that button, it will then show you your stream key. Now, we talked a bit about actually setting up the stream and what it looks like. I can't just type the stream key into Notepad and then all of a sudden I'm streaming. It doesn't really work that way. You need some kind of software that's going to allow you to stream. And the one that I recommend, mostly because it's free, and I think that if you're just getting into streaming, you may want to, ease into it without spending a ton of money, is going to be OBS Studio. Now, OBS is free and it is open source, which is great. One of the things that I do warn people is that it does kind of have a learning curve to it. You can do some really simple things really quickly, or you can do some very complex things. Now, I'll show you what exactly we're going to be looking at. I'm going to pull up my OBS now at this point and actually look at what we see on a regular basis here. So you should, oh, let's close that. Let's give it a second. I can't tell if it's sharing both or just one. Oh, I think it's just sharing one. Let's do this. Let's stop sharing and then add that to the share. There we go. All right, so now we see this is what my OBS setup looks like, and there are some things that I took out to kind of make it as a little simpler and not as busy. So what we have here, there are really a few major parts to this setup. As you can see, there's a mixer for dealing in audio. We can, in a second, talk about the actual like piping in audio. I know that's a big thing that people like. There's this whole idea of how do I get my music into Twitch? That is something that is, while it's simple once you figure it out, it's not easy. It's not, at least not easy the first time. So, but yeah, your mixers, how you're handling audio. You have your scenes, which are the major screens. As you can see, I just changed to a different scene on here, and it's all jumbled and beat up and garbled because I never use it. And then you have these little things that I'm moving around called sources, which are a really good way to control what's going on and what people are seeing. Okay, so we have these scenes, we have these sources. What most people see for the game streamers are some screen being piped in through something like an Elgato or another screen capture device, or if they're just playing some PC game, they're just capturing that window. And then they have it set up as a source on OBS. And by the way, if you have questions, feel free to ask questions. We do have a chat going here. I'm kind of running through this really quickly, but if someone has a question or a comment, please let me know, and then I will definitely take a look at that. And it looks like Kenneth joined us as well. How's it going, Kenneth? Good to see you. Now, we talked about that stream key. Once we find that stream key, the first thing we need to do before we can do any kind of streaming is upload our stream key. So I'm going to add this settings screen. Anurag, can you see the settings screen on Zoom? I can't tell.
Yeah, no, I can see it. It's overlaid on top of the your OBS screen.
Good to go. Okay, thank you. And as you can see on the side here, by the way, I am giving you instructions for the Mac. I like OBS for this tutorial because it does also look pretty much the same on Windows as well. Obviously, some of the buttons might look a little different, but where you'll go to set this information will be the same. But as you can see, there's a big button that says Stream. And the good thing with OBS is it has a bunch of streaming services already set up for you as far as your URL or the server that you're connecting to, as you can see here. And then I just keep mine on auto, and then here is where we would paste in that stream key. And of course, as I mentioned, this works for YouTube, this works for Smashcast, Mixer, Facebook Live. You can do this. I don't know if Facebook Live still works because I know they changed how that is set up. But you can set this up to stream with a variety of sources. Now, while we're in here, let's talk about a couple of things. One of the big things that I hear a lot is whenever I stream, it crashes, it's really glitchy, it's laggy. One of the things that you can do with this to help with that is set your scaled resolution down. I know that people want to have the 4K video stream. However, if your computer can only handle 720, stream at 720, it will be just fine. I would say if you have to go lower than 720, while it will be okay, you may want to reduce the number of windows that you have open, because obviously the more windows, the smaller they have to be, the more pixelated and blurry they'll be. And then also you can adjust your filter. Some people, I think by default it's set to bicubic, because I'm not doing very much fast moving, I'm not streaming video, I'm not, capturing, gameplay. I set it to bilinear just because it's a little easier on my machine. And then for the most real estate, you have a base canvas and then the output resolution. So your base resolution is what your basic real estate is. So I put mine, it supports 1440, I give it 1440. That is basically the width of my desktop on my iMac. The output resolution is what you're sending up to Twitch and to the services. So that is that's where I'm coming in at 720. And we can even see that if I started streaming, which again, we don't want to do that while I'm recording, because trying to capture your screen twice is a great way to crash your computer. But if I were to start streaming, then you would look and it would say like auto 720, and then you'd be able to downscale it, if you're watching. And then of course we talked about some audio stuff here. Here's just some more audio settings that you can use. My desktop audio device I use is called Soundflower. This is the thing that people want to hear about a lot when they say, oh, well, how do I get music playing in the background of my stream? I use a tool called Soundflower. It's open source. It is maintained by a company called Rogue Amoeba, who actually make a commercial version of it as well called Loopback. Loopback is much easier to use. However, it is also $100. So I prefer the free version of Soundflower. Setting it up can be a little difficult. I think that's something that we'll have to save for another video, just because it can take some time and it does take some finagling every once in a while. But yeah, there's that. So I use Soundflower. Like I said, Loopback is another option. Any Loopback audio interface will suffice. It'll be perfectly fine. You just have to figure out which one works best for you. There's another one called Jack that is also open source, but I don't believe it has much support for OBS. Actually, I've read a couple of articles that say that it's very difficult to set up on OBS. So now, okay, so Anurag asked, do you always have a Yeti microphone for streaming, or do you use the input? I use my Yeti for everything. So I'm a podcaster. I have a Yeti. I use the Yeti. It's nice. But you can use your built-in iMac. Obviously, your microphone quality will be based on the quality of microphone that you use. So you can use your local audio. I would suggest if you're thinking about doing any kind of presentations where you're recording your voice, you will probably want to buy some kind of microphone, and a Yeti is a kind of a good start. It's a good starting point. I believe it's $100 for the microphone. They have some other ones. There's like the Blue Snowball, which I think is $50. And honestly, as long as you can hold the microphone away from your shirt so it's not scratchy, I've seen people record using just earbuds. That's actually one of the most common ways that people do record are through their earbuds, because it's a little bit closer to your mouth, so the audio quality will be a little bit better. All right, so we've covered the audio settings. And one more thing. Kenneth says, if you're streaming from Windows, you don't need Soundflower. Windows can already handle the sound splitting, which is really nice. If you need more than just a couple of sources, though, you'll need something like Voicemeeter. I haven't played around with Voicemeeter too much, but I think I have set up, I know I've set up OBS sessions on Windows before. It's not too bad. Kenneth, do you want to jump in and provide a little bit of knowledge on voice meter, how easy or how difficult it is to set up?
You install the software, it'll require a restart. The part that's the weirdest is your audio source, like you're listening to, is going to be labeled as voice meter input, and your audio source that you are sending the data out from is almost always set as voice meter output. So I think it's the output that voice meter gets, and then you're listening to voice meter's input. I don't know. It's a weird name. But you'll get used to it, and you end up just having to set that in OBS and in your desktop. Sometimes if you're perhaps doing a shared stream with a friend and you're both on voice chat, then you may need to set it in the voice chat as well as the input and output. But that's about it. It's pretty straightforward.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So, and by the way, Kenneth has done many video sessions for a while now. So remind me, Kenneth, to get the link to your video sessions, and I will share those out with people on the YouTube video portion of this. All right, so we've talked about audio, we talked about video, but now we want to put everything together. We want to build this scene. So as we're looking at it right now, like I said, this is kind of a mess of sorts, but I've tried to simplify it as much as possible here. We're looking at the couple of screens that we have for my stream. Now, I'm not going to show you my desktop, but obviously I'm recording on the desktop and I have, Zoom open and I'm screen sharing and there's chat windows and Twitter and all these other things. But on the stream, all you're seeing are a couple of windows and some custom items that I've added. And I do that because I do this because I don't want people to see everything, but there are several things that I do want them to see. So I do that by setting up these sources here. And we'll talk about sources before we talk about scenes because that'll kind of make sense. So the sources, all they are individual items that are presented in the stream. Now, I tell people the background image, this wonderful image, let me start hiding items quickly. The image isn't my desktop. It's actually a picture that I took in Petaluma when I went to North Bay Python, which was really fun. And I met Ernest there, who's also in the chat. Hello, Ernest. But I choose this because, one, my desktop is kind of boring and it changes a lot, and I really don't want to have to be bothered with things changing and moving around all the time. So what I did was I just took a picture and make sure the picture is big enough, otherwise it's going to be blurry, and then I set it as my default background. Usually if you take any picture with an iPhone, it will be big enough, just because that I believe Samsungs are the same way, or any other modern day Android device will take a large enough photo unless you specifically tell it not to be large enough. And then I'm just going to kind of break down how I added these items on top of each other. Then I wanted a little clean area for me to put information, such as the name of the brand that I represent, Productivity and Tech. Let me lock these so they're not moving around. And of course, you can move these as you get them. You can scale them. I always say it's better to go larger than smaller. Make sure your images are large enough so that they're not going to be blurry or grainy. And then you can always just set it right back. And then I have some more information. So if someone wants to follow me on Twitter, and I will say that Twitch is really good about this. Twitch has an area below the stream that you can put all of this information in. And I would actually encourage you to do so. That way you're not taking up real estate from your stream. And we can go into that area, but I can tell you now the easiest way to do that. Let me switch back to the Well, if I can find the window. Let me switch back to my browser. By the way, are there any other questions? Ernest says, I spent so much time learning this morning. Why wasn't I patient? It's okay, Ernest. Let's see. There we go. All right. Can someone just give me an okay, you see my browser window and not anything else? Because otherwise this won't make sense. Yep, Twitch chat. Okay. Oh, Twitch chat or my Twitch dashboard. The chat. Oh, that's not good. Oh, yeah, that's the wrong one. We're looking for a Twitch dashboard. Okay, should be on Twitch dashboard now. And we can, I don't know if we can have to undo shares or whatever, but all right, so from the Twitch dashboard, not the chat, as you can see, there's not much here. Let's go to our page. I believe I went to the wrong page. It is our page. Okay. Oh goodness, what's happening? So much stuff's happening. So as you can see, I put like an about me here. It says, hey, you know, I started doing this and this and this, and you know, here's my logo. And if I wanted to add something there, I could. I just hit not edit because that edits your broadcast. Edit panels. And then you can type it in. So let's say I want to tell someone, and by the way, it supports Markdown, which is great. If you want to learn more about Markdown, Daring Fireball has some instructions, also GitHub and many other places. Let me Google that for you. But yeah, so we can say, follow me on Twitter. And then I can give you my Twitter account. And then you can also do for productivity and tech as well. Oops. All right, and then once we submit it, and give it a second. Now when we uncheck edit panels, we see that it's been added to our Twitter landing page here. And I mean, that's really it. And like I said, it's great because you can do all of those things and then not have to put them on your OBS session, which especially as like for us, since we're programming, that's always something that is, you know, rather important since we're not able to constantly have, you know, space open and we have multiple windows and things that we want open. So now we were talking about windows. We have some other things, little productivity tracker, which is literally just a snippet from my dashboard from the timing app. And then let's see what else we have here. There's so much stuff. All right, the first big thing, an iTerm window, which is what people are probably going to be wanting to see, which is your code. So all this is a window capture. I've called it iTerm. If we click on it, we can see that it's just a window that's for iTerm. Here you can see all of the many windows that I have open on my desktop right now. Some of these are little icons. We can scroll through these too so you can see what they look like, you know, as they change. But that's my actual desktop right now. The reason I also like using pictures is OBS likes to capture transitions and they do a really bad job at it. So like if I go from one window to another window, it'll like flicker a little or it'll shake or move. That's something that is a pain in the butt. As you can see, some items don't show very well. But let's go. We had iTerm. Perfect. And of course, sometimes if you can't find the window that you're looking for, check the box that says show windows with empty name. That helps. And then the show window shadow, that kind of just gives you the outer portion of it, I guess. It like puts it kind of on top of stuff. It adds that little shadow animation that Apple is so known for. I usually turn that off. Now, tips for sharing your code. The only tip that I can give you is use a large font. If you have microprint, people will not be able to read or see what you're doing. And I think that's probably the one mistake that people make the most. The other thing that I'll tell you, and this is with most Windows, be careful how large or how small the window is on your desktop. If I adjust the settings, like if I adjust the window, which I'm doing right now, you'll notice that the window is getting smaller, and I'm not adjusting it on OBS. I'm adjusting the physical window itself. So what I like to tell people is make sure you have it set to a setting that you're comfortable with, and then don't mess with it. Because the more you mess with it, the more it's going to change on OBS. Because if you, again, you'll change something and then you won't notice that you changed it, and people will just stop watching. So that's the big one. Because I do a lot of web development, I usually have a browser window open, which is whatever window I'm working in. But of course, you can have multiple windows of different types. If you only want to share a part of the window, like if I only wanted to share the part of my Twitch screen that is the actual video, you can do what's called a filter. And this is going to be the last thing that we really cover, because everything else is kind of more the same. It's just learning what options are available. And I definitely encourage you to go out and explore and dig through this more. But then we're going to open it up to questions, because I know that there may be a few. Actually, if you have a question, go ahead and just put it in the chat. That way we can go through them pretty quickly. But yeah, if I wanted to show just a portion of that internet browser window, I would right-click on its window. I would hit filters. And then as you can see, there's some audio video filters. You can, this is mostly like adding a video delay to stuff, or, if you're dealing with audio, you can increase the volume, you can decrease the volume. Sometimes that's required if your mic isn't loud enough. And then, of course, some of the effect filters are what people will use the most. Now, I often use like a crop and pad, where I will say, hey, let's shave off 300 pixels on the left, 200 pixels on the top, 500 pixels on the right, and then that looks like 700 pixels on the bottom. Kind of eyeballed that. I don't know how accurate it is. But as you can see now, what we have is just the chat window. And then again, remember, if you start messing around with the window size, it will adjust this window pane itself. So just be careful with that. And then, one more thing. As you can see, once we've gotten this set up however we want it, let's say we want to go with that. To start streaming, we would just hit start streaming. And of course, you can also use this to take screen recordings. And you can do both at the same time. Just make sure your computer is powerful enough to handle it. But I often use this whenever I am giving a tutorial on a specific tool. That way you just have that window open instead of all of the other windows. And once you have this set up, I often recommend that when something's in place, like lock it down. That way you don't accidentally go in and move something by mistake. And you do that just by clicking on the lock. And if you want to hide something really quick, you can just hit the little eyeball there. Can you stream and record at the same time on OBS? Yes, you can. But again, if your computer is strong enough to manage that, like with everything, it's a matter of resources. OBS is a little bit CPU intensive. So the more you're streaming, and also the higher the rate that you're streaming, the more challenging it will be to stream. And you'll notice it'll start to slow down your computer. That's a good question. But yeah, once you got this set up, you can just save it as a different scene. I often duplicate scenes and then make minor adjustments. And then at the end, you can go into your settings again. I can't tell if you can see the settings or not. I think you said you could. And then go to hotkeys and then set like a hotkey for that scene. Now, as you see here, there are different scenes. So camera only is one that I have set for just my camera. And then screenshot 2, which that's what I called it. I don't know why. And screenshot 1, or screenshot as I called it. I have it set by F1 and F2 because I don't really use function keys that often. So if I hit F1 or F2, it changes 1. And of course, you can always go in here, and if I just hit camera only, as you can see, it is a different setting, which, because I've changed my resolution, looks very, very goofy. And then the fade that's coming in is set here. And of course, you can just do a cut or you can do a fade, and it is based on whatever time you set it. As you can see now, it's much quicker. It's that simple. Kenneth mentioned, pretty much every streaming site offers videos for download after you broadcast. This is useful if you want to have the video on YouTube or some other platform after the fact. Yes, and it's actually a better way to get a copy of your stream because, as I mentioned, the more you're doing on the actual OBS software, the more it's going to slow your computer down. It's best to let them do it because they have great resources available. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to open for any questions, whether you want to ask them in voice. If you do, just say who you are. That way I can tell. And yeah, any questions? I didn't figure there would be many questions since we have some professionals on the point online with us.
Jay, I have a question. Anurag here. So just to go over the OBS window on the bottom real quick, you've got scenes and then you've got sources. So you essentially switch, but you can set up your scenes ahead of time, and then you can set up the sources within each. Now, if that window, if there's source that is not running, like let's say, I have Sublime Text and Atom, I'm using them at the same time, and for some reason I'm not using Sublime Text or I'm not using Atom, would that break that screen or that scene? Sorry, or would it still?
Good question. It won't break the scene. However, what it will do is the source won't show up. And what I would recommend doing is just quickly run through and make sure that the things that you expect are there, especially when it comes to browser windows. For some reason, so I have this browser window, right? If I were to restart this and that browser window isn't there, it's because the Windows like to go after that exact instance. And then if it can't, then it looks for the window name. So you can have Atom open, or if you have multiple Atom windows open, also be careful about that, because what it picks up may not be the one that you're expecting. But yeah, if you don't have the window open, or if you don't have Atom open, then it's just not going to have a window for Atom. Another point about that, by the way, is if you are if you minimize or hide your windows, if you minimize the window, it will disappear. So if I minimize this in a second, it's lagging and slightly crashed. Okay, so yeah, as you can see. it like captured the animation going down.
Right.
I did learn that if you hide a window, so if I hide my iTerm window, the window will stay up, but the actual capturing of it will stop. So it's almost like pausing. I tried that with my chat window, and I had it up on the stream, and I noticed that no one was asking questions or making comments. But then when I brought the window back up, there were a bunch of comments, and luckily the audience was talking to each other, because I was sitting there looking at my stream window and did not notice that there were any changes to it, and it was because I had hidden the window itself.
Cool.
Good question.
And just this is more of like a general question, I guess. And because Kenneth also streams, I would love his input as well. But what's your experience been like with streaming on Twitch versus streaming on YouTube? And which one's easier or more, I don't know, streamer friendly, and what have you? Are you able to? Let me ask you this. And then following up to that, is there any kind of like analytics that you get out of your stream, be it Twitch or YouTube streams?
So on Twitch, they do have analytics, and I mean, you can kind of see what's going on. Like, that's what that dashboard is for. You can kind of get an idea of your stream health. So if all of a sudden it gives you a little video, it gives you your chat window, you can make quick changes on the fly. But it's mostly so that you can see what's going on at any given time. I have streamed on both. I think I've streamed with Kenneth on YouTube, which is always fun, and on Twitch. The one thing I will say is I feel like streaming on Twitch is easier to do if it's just you. If you're trying to stream by like Google Hangouts, it's a little difficult because then you have to check like the Hangouts chat and the YouTube chat. If you're streaming like via OBS on YouTube, I just think you have to have like a chat window open. I will say that I have had better success on Twitch, but that's mostly in part that I don't really do like a regular stream. I kind of stream when I want. And it does a good job of notifying people that follow me, hey, this person is streaming, come check it out. Whereas YouTube isn't really, in my opinion, that great at that. You kind of have to do a little bit more of the promotion yourself. You have to say, hey, I'm going to be streaming, or hey, I'm streaming right now, here's the link, and send it out. And after you do all of that, I think they're pretty much the same. There are delays on both. I can't tell you what those delays are, a couple of seconds. Kenneth, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is pretty simple. As far as the alerts go, it's the same as Twitch, where somebody has to say they want to get alerts when you're going live. The difference is on Twitch, those alerts are default, and on YouTube, you have to click the bell. So they're opt-in to get those alerts. Personally, I like that better, but that does make it a little harder for people to get told to tune in at any random point. One nice thing about YouTube is you can schedule streams ahead of time so people know they're coming up. If you have a thing where it's like every Friday at noon I'm going to do a stream, which is what I did for about a year, you can preset those, and YouTube will tell people that it's coming up, and there's even like a little countdown and stuff if they're just waiting on the stream, which is kind of nice. YouTube gives pretty good analytics. It'll give you minute-by-minute breakdown of where people stopped watching, tell you how many people watched, how many chat messages came in, again, minute-by-minute, stuff like that, so that's kind of handy. I don't really like either Twitch or YouTube for streaming if I'm doing game stuff, and really even it's not that great for programming stuff if you can do it on Mixer instead. It used to be called Beam, but then Microsoft bought it and renamed it. If you have the bandwidth for it, it will give you sub-second delay. So it's effectively a real-time stream, which is really nice if you have a lot of audience participation or want to have a lot of audience participation.
Got it. Cool. Those were my only questions. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, absolutely. And like Kenneth said, I think with having OBS controlling your stream or any other tool, there are some other tools out there. Telestream is a good one. I can't think of, what is it? XSplit is another really popular one. But mostly be concerned with that. That's going to be more your control center. As far as the analytics go, you'll have to rely on the service provider itself. But most streaming sites are built on the same architecture, so there's always going to be some URL that you have to connect to. There's usually going to be some kind of key that you'll need. But I think as long as you have those things, you'll be fine. All right, so thank you for joining. I hope that you enjoyed this, and of course, you can find me streaming on Twitch at KJY Miller, just like everywhere else. And also, this video will be on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/c/productivityandtech, or if you just go to productivityandtech.com and then click on the YouTube button there, you can find it there and be sure to subscribe. This should be available probably in the next day or so. But thank you for joining, and I'm going to stop the recording there.